When you think of Republican or conservative noted budget expert or even budget commentator, do you think of Meghan McCain? Well, somebody at Meet the Press did. Here is Megan McCain talking about the infrastructure bill. This is not a joke.
Megan, I want you to play a reporter here for us because you may have the best sense of Krysten Sinema. I know you have a pretty good personal relationship. That's the frustration Democrats say. They don't know what Joe Manchin wants. They don't know what his bottom line is, and they don't know what her bottom line is. How would you describe it?
Well, I mean, politically in Arizona, I think that's why people like her so much. Just anecdotally, conservatives in my life really like her because, you know, she's...
Can you pause it? I'm sorry. I just, like, the opening, I want you to play reporter here. Here's an idea. On Meet the Press, you could have an actual reporter on.
That could happen. That could happen.
Or she could just opine about her personal relationship with Krysten Sinema.
Which I'm sure they get deep into the weeds about. But she says anecdotally her conservative friends. Remember, this is a Democratic senator. Her numbers under the Democratic Party have tanked. And there is no way in a million years that Krysten Sinema will win a Republican primary. She could switch over to the Republican Party tomorrow. She could be an incumbent, and she's going to lose that primary. But continue.
Megan, I want you to play a reporter here for us because you may have the best sense of Krysten Sinema. I know you have a pretty good personal relationship. That's the frustration Democrats say. They don't know what Joe Manchin wants. They don't know what his bottom line is, and they don't know what her bottom line is. How would you describe it?
Well, I mean, politically in Arizona, I think that's why people like her so much. Just anecdotally, conservatives in my life really like her because, you know, she's holding the line for conservatives in a lot of ways. The question I always have is, you know, for people like Joe Manchin, if it's not him, it's going to be a Republican. So this distaste and this, you know, outward hostility towards moderates in the Democratic Party surprises me. I also was shocked by seeing talking about sort of.
But I'm not sure if she's aware of how her father was treated by the Republican Party up in the months up to his death. This is a former presidential candidate who was basically used as a step ladder for their most recent president, who now controls that party.
Does anybody else remember imprisonment and says, I like prisoners who aren't captured or whatever.
I like my war heroes who are not captured.
Yeah.
But it's shocking to see hostility towards Joe Manchin. Continue.
Taste and this, you know, outward hostility towards moderates in the Democratic Party surprises me. I also was shocked by seeing Senator Booker talking about sort of openly this distrust between progressives and moderates. How the Democratic Party ultimately threads the needle, I don't know. But I will say that President Biden ran on being a moderate, as you said. He ran and won with the help of independent, centrists, you know, Trump-wary Republicans, and he is not governing as one. The Build Back Better agenda is the most progressive modern agenda of all time, up to $5 trillion, and it's not polling well. So I think I'm just confused as why they're doubling down on something that is cratering in the polls right now.
You know, Eddie, I'm just curious.
Okay, now, what she just said there was a complete lie. A complete lie. Joe Biden ran exactly on this program. In fact, I think the one that he ran on was slightly bigger. It, in fact, polls very well in battleground states. Here, in fact, is a summary of what Megan McCain just lied about. It is a tweet from Meet the Press. Pop this up. And this is problematic. You know, it's one thing to have Megan McCain on your panel show and not give anybody an opportunity to say, like, hey, you're lying. And you didn't do any reporting on Krysten Sinema. You just said that you have conservative friends who like her.
Well, she's playing reporter to give her
I understand, but she didn't even pretend to give a report about that.
Just anecdotally, her rich conservative friends that she grew up around her senator and presidential candidate father like Krysten Sinema. I am enlightened. Thank you.
But it's also,
I met the press.
Talked about Joe Manchin, and she doesn't know anybody who knows Joe Manchin. She Meet the Press tweeted out, Biden ran and won with the help of independent centrists. The Build Back Better agenda is the most progressive modern agenda of all time, up to $5 trillion, and it's not polling well. The fact is, it is polling well. Put up, do we have a clip of that poll?
So basically, they quoted her without any. They
used her quote for it to basically like launder that talking point.
Yes.
Is with an authority because there's actually no evidence.
With an authority, and that authority being Megan McCain.
Here are the majority of voters support the provisions of the Democrats in Congress proposed budget. Pretty overwhelming. He explicitly campaigned and won with those things.
On infrastructure, too. I mean, that concept, he was really... infrastructure polls of anything that the Democrats are going to try and pass here, in general, as a topic, very well.
And here's the thing. The bill is not $5 trillion.
Up to.
It is no.
That's what she said, though.
It's up to, but there is the one thing that we do know. The one thing that we do know is that the reconciliation, the resolution that was passed to create the vehicle for the reconciliation says $3.5 trillion is the maximum. The maximum. Now, I get what's a couple million between friends, maybe a couple of billion, maybe a couple $100 billion. But when you're off by $1.5 trillion, somebody should raise their hand and say, hey, you're off by $1.5 trillion.
Particularly when that's all they've been discussing is that number.
Yeah, and then they chose to advertise that figure in that tweet as a way to, as Matt said, launder that point.
And we should say also, this is over the course of 10 years.
Yes.
The military budget that they just approved a military budget that was $25 billion more than the Pentagon had asked for.
So let's frame it like this: $350 billion per year for 10 years on social infrastructure. Do we have a deal?
That is less than a half of what we spend on the military each year. The military over the course of those 10 years is closer to $8 trillion. And the problem is that your casual viewer will watch that and just assume, well, somebody would have said something if it wasn't true, right? Like, people just assume that the people who know what they're talking about will correct the people who don't know what they're talking about. And I don't know why they're laundering Megan McCain. Like, The View was the high end of her journalistic enterprises over the course of the past 20 years.
You know what I'm fearful of? This is a trial balloon for a show.
Good.
Her and Chuck Todd.
I will. Yeah. Look.
All right.
There's a variety of Republicans who get certain contracts or if they spoke out against Trump in some way, and that could be what they're trying to do here.
That was pretty stunning. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to try and gather our composure at that last difficult thing that Emma just proposed. We'll be right back after this. Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really. Thank you.